But I want you to imagine yourself in your home, in your kitchen. You're sitting at the kitchen table. Maybe you have a cup of coffee in your hands. The evening is quiet that night, ordinary, and you hear the soft hum of the fridge. Maybe the wind is whispering through the open windows, a nice little breeze like today. You spent years caring for this home, building this home, tending to family, pouring love and effort into the life around you. Every creak of the floor, every well-worn surface speaks of patience, sacrifice, and faithfulness. Then the phone rings. The calmness shatters. You pick it up immediately, and her voice explodes through the line. Thanks for nothing. You're a deadbeat. You never cared about me. Each word hits you like a hammer. She yells over every attempt to speak. She lashes out at her siblings, and she drags up things that happened long ago, twisting the past into fresh pain. You can almost sense the whispers in the background, voices just urging her on, feeding the storm that crashes through the line. The peace of your home presses in, threatened by the chaos you cannot touch. In that moment, every choice you've made with your family, every word spoken or withheld, every ounce of patience and discipline bears down like a weight. What do? Is your first instinct to retaliate in anger? Withdrawal and bitterness? Or respond in a way that reflects God's heart? Breaking the cycle of dishonor, even when it's undeserved. That tension, that choice, is exactly what God addresses in His Word. He speaks to adults, to those capable of decision, accountable for the legacy they are going to leave behind. He gives a command that carries blessing and warning alike. A command that shapes families, the homes, and their hearts. And now, with that weight on your hearts, let's turn together to God's Word and hear for ourselves in Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. As we gather together in Exodus 20, verse 12, you will remember that we were working our way through the Ten Commandments. And this week, verse 12 reads, Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God is giving you. Honor your father and your mother. It tends to be the most focused on part of this passage. So the very first thing I want to point out about this verse is living in a way that deserves honor. Everybody is quick to talk about children and what they do wrong, but we need to live in a way that deserves honor. When God spoke these words out Mount Sinai, yes, children were present. But the ones He was speaking to, the ones who bore responsibility, were adult sons and daughters. Men and women who carried households on their shoulders, who managed families, livelihoods, and futures. People whose choices rippled outward, shaping not just their own lives, but the lives of entire clans, towns, and generations yet unborn. Honor was not a lesson for toddlers with crayons or coloring sheets. It was a call to adults who would change the course of generations through their choices, through their words, and the lives modeled. Think about it. When God carved the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai with His own finger, He saw everything that was happening. He saw the golden calf being worshipped at the foot of the mountain. He knew that disobedience would make them wander for 40 years. And yet He still spoke to them, the adults, the leaders, the ones responsible for shaping the next generation. And He held them accountable. Because God doesn't just speak to the young. He calls the grown, the responsible, the ones who can change the course of a generation's future. The Hebrew word for honor is kabed. It literally means weight. It presses down. It anchors itself. It is not light. It's not fleeting. Think of the hands that taught you how to walk, the shoulders that carried the burdens that you never saw, the nights spent awake so you could sleep in peace. To honor your parents is to let that weight press on your heart and to shape the way you speak, the way you act, the way you live. And God is saying, give them weight. Let their lives matter in your life today. Take seriously the people who shaped you. But before you glaze over, this is not one-sided. Honor is never one-sided. The flip side is just as crucial. Your life must be worth honoring. You cannot demand respect if your life is hollow. If your words and your actions are light, scattered, or careless. The world may say honor and respect must be earned, but no, it is given. It must be modeled. It must be carried forward in every choice, every decision, every act of patience and integrity. Your children and your grandchildren, they are always watching. The life you live, the weight you give, that is the legacy they will carry forward. Here's where we mess up. We shrug it off and say, well, I've raised my kids, I've done my part. That is the American mindset. Kick them out when they're 18. My job is done. But we tell ourselves that honor is optional, that respect is a reward for the good behavior of others, and that our legacy is already secured by both bloodlines and our traditions. But that's not the case. The truth is far heavier. Children, whether they are grown or not, are mirrors. They watch the curve of your shoulders when burdens press in. Makes a very excellent point. Children, little babies, when you look at them, when you make a funny face, they kind of goo and giggle and they laugh, right? Because they're mimicking you. Children at a very young age learn to mimic those that surround them. They notice the tension in your words, and as they grow up, they notice when you patient things, and they feel the quiet tremor in your voice when pride or anger arises. Honor isn't just taught in lectures or rules; it's absorbed from the life lived before them. Every small choice, every small glance, every withheld word, it carries meaning. It shapes perception, and it etches itself into memory. We tell ourselves, I don't care what they think. We've all said that. Yet, if you're honest, the judgment whispers at the edge of your mind. It lingers in the moments of reflection, in fleeting regrets, in the quiet night when nothing is left to distract you. Deep down, their view matters, because the weight of your life leaves a trace, whether you intend it to or not. And here's the danger that we often miss. What feels like freedom or honesty, saying what we want, cutting corners, indulging in bitterness, shrugging off responsibility, is poison in the soul of familiarity. It seeps into conversation, it seeps into our attitudes and our choices for years. It quietly teaches us entitlement, disrespect, and disregard. You may think the damage is small, isolated, or reversible, but dishonor, if left unchecked, grows like roots under the floorboards, unseen, until it splinters everything it touches. To live lightly, to live flippantly, to live bitterly or selfishly is to offer a hollow shell, a life of words without weight. Children, even adults now, sense the emptiness. People make the first impression within seconds of seeing you, so often before you speak. They notice when love is conditional, when respect is withheld, when patience is measured at convenience. What feels like honesty may actually be eroding the very ground you hope to stand on. Look at Joseph from Genesis. Joseph, his brothers betrayed him, tossed him in a well, sold him into slavery, and left him for dead. We know that story. Years passed, and yet when Jacob died, his father, Joseph didn't shrug it off. He carried his father's body from Egypt to Canaan, fulfilling his father's burial wishes because he understood something we often forget. The way you live and the way you honor is never just about you. It ripples into generations that follow. So here's the question you have to ask yourself. If my children or grandchildren were to stand up at my funeral tomorrow, what weight would they carry with them about my life? Would they say he was faithful, steadfast? Would they give something worth respecting? Or would they remember a hollow shell of words that never quite lined up with actions? Honor isn't something that you demand, it's something you deposit. Every day you're putting something into the account of your children's memories. One day they'll make withdrawals. And it's up to you what they withdraw. And here's the good news. Christ can redeem even the overdrafted account. If you failed, he offers forgiveness. If you're honest with yourself, you have failed. Just like I told my own father yesterday. We all make mistakes. It takes humility to admit when you're wrong. If you stumbled, he offers strength. But don't waste another sunrise. Don't waste another morning. Begin today to live in such a way that when they look back, they'll see Jesus shining through you. The next thing I want to point out about verse 12 is the forgotten weight of dishonor. I want you to imagine yourself back in the kitchen with coffee warming your hands. The evening air is just blowing through, and the calm is shattered by that phone call. And the voice erupts. Thanks for nothing. You never cared about me. Each word still strikes like a hammer, pressing into the heart of your ordinary life, the choices you've made, and the love that you've poured out. Even as you try to respond, she talks over you relentlessly. A storm of accusations fueled by whispers. Shadows of anger and rebellion that have lingered too long. The safety of your home feels fragile. The walls seem to close in, and the moment you realize every action, every patience tested, every act of care you've given presses on you now. And you must decide how you will respond, what the path you will take, and how you will let this moment shape your legacy. Choices have consequences. Patience withheld becomes bitterness. Love denied becomes rebellion. The weight is on your shoulders. Dishonor was not casual in the Old Testament. It was not casual in Israel. And God commanded that Deuteronomy 21, verses 18 to 21 talks about this. This will blow your mind. In the Old Testament, if a son rebelled and he was persistent rebelling, the parents could take them out the gates to the elders and have them stoned. Now today, we're like, we'll never do that. We'll never do that. But that just goes to show the weight of dishonor. That's Deuteronomy 21, if you ever want to look it up. Verses 18 to 21. And yes, that sounds wild. It shocks us. We recoil at the idea thinking, really? Stone? But pause and think about why. This wasn't about cruelty as much as it sounds. This was about the survival of the family, the home, the next generation. God saw the dangerous seed that rebellion plants. Disrespect left unchecked. Contempt festering in silence. Bitterness growing into a rot that eventually destroyed everything. The law wasn't arbitrary. It was God protecting honor, integrity, and life-giving relationships that would ripple through generations. Today we shrug when children, grandchildren, or even ourselves act with casual disrespect. We tell ourselves, they're grown, it's harmless, I have a right to vent about my parents or my children. We minimize it, rationalize it, and pretend it's just words. But the truth is, dishonor doesn't make a loud entrance. It seeps in quietly. Like that leak up there, dripping through the roof, seeping into the boards. It weakens what should be solid. Like a leak, the dishonor spreads silently, undermining trust, love, and connection. And eventually, the rot will show. It destroys what we hold dear before we even notice. We often defend it. We excuse our sharp tongues as honesty, bitterness as freedom of speech, and rebellion as self-expression. The world applauds it, but God warns us of it. What seems harmless now is a seed planted in the hearts of those around us. It grows unseen, twisting perception, teaching entitlement, disrespecting hardness of heart. One day, those seeds of dishonor bloom into scars. Scars that ripples across dinner tables, living rooms, and Sunday mornings, long after the words were spoken. Look at Eli's sons. It's in 1 Samuel. Hophni and Phinehas. They mocked their father. They treated the priesthood as a stage for their own desires and treated God's offering with contempt. Eli, the father, tried to correct them. He warned them. He pleaded with them. But he never truly restrained them. They grew up unchecked, indulged in their rebellion, and thought their boundaries didn't apply to them. And the consequences was catastrophic. God wiped out the whole family line. Their choices, their disrespect, their unchecked rebellion didn't just hurt themselves. They destroyed everything Eli had hoped to preserve in his house. What started small as a casual disregard became a rot that ate the family inside out. Now we have to look in the mirror. How often do we shrug at sharp words, lazily enforced rules, or moments when we justly justify selfishness or anger in our homes? How often do we shrug at that? We're all guilty of it. How often do we fail to confront what we should, hoping it will pass, only to find that disrespect spreads quietly, unseen, and erodes the foundations we thought were solid? Eli's sons were not evil children. They were allowed to grow in dishonor. And left unchecked, dishonor doesn't stay quiet. It whispers and it infects attitudes, conversations, even the hearts we love the most. What seems harmless now, the occasional sarcastic comment, the occasional eye roll, a dismissal of care, can over time splinter the very legacy that you hope to pass on. Dishonor left unchecked destroys silently, completely, and sometimes irreversibly. And that is the warning. It's easier to catch it early, to confront it faithfully, than to watch it spiral into ruin. And here's the thing. This is the first commandment that offers a promise. As I mentioned earlier, everyone focuses on honoring your father and mother, but the last half of the sentence, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God has given you. Some versions, I don't know, it might say promise of blessing. Verse 12? Okay. Some verses say giving, saying some promise of blessing. Then the New King James say that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God has given you. It's the first promise of the Ten Commandments. And here's the thing, that Christ offers a way to break the cycle. There's a way out of all the dishonor. But first we must see where dishonor has taken root in our own homes. Look at your words. Look at your tone. The way you respond when others frustrate you or anger you. Notice where impatience, pride, or neglect has crept in. These are cracks in your household's foundation. Small acts, repeated daily, that erode respect and love. Then ask yourself, how can I repair them? Start small. Speak with kindness where you would normally lash out. Respond with patience when you would normally withdraw. Make amends where you've been harsh or dismissive. Model respect even when it isn't returned. Every intentional act builds weight where emptiness once ruled. By seeing a problem clearly and taking action, you're preparing the ground of your heart. So you're preparing the soil of your heart for the grace of Christ, the grace of God, and and that brings us to the next point. The ultimate solution for broken cycles and the restoration of honor is the son who bore our dishonor. I want you to imagine again that you're back in the kitchen and the echoes of a phone call still linger in your mind. But the ordinary rhythm of your day, quietness, just overwhelming you. The soft sigh of the wind through the windows, it feels distant now, as if it belongs to someone else. You hear the words, "You never cared about me." We've heard them. The words press in, sharp as broken glass. The anger, the rejection, the chaos. You often feel it. Every accusation, every lash of bitterness reverberates against the walls that you built with care. Maybe you feel it in your chest, in your hands, in the tension crawling up your spine. Even if you try to respond, the voice storms over yours, relentless, consuming, just talking over you. And behind it, you sense the whispers urging the chaos, shadows of long-standing pain feeding the fire. In that moment, every instinct we have battles for control. Part of you wants to yell back, to strike with words sharper than the ones thrown at you. Another part often wants to shrink, to hide, to retreat in silence. And in that tension, you realize this: how you respond matters. Your reaction or your restraint, your patience, these will ripple outward. They will either break the cycle of dishonor or reinforce it. Even the greatest honor in the Old Testament points to the perfect fulfillment in Christ. I want you to picture him on the cross, his wrists and his feet pierced, blood mingling with sweat, each breath a jagged gasp of pain. The sky darkens above as if creation recoils at what is happening. Around him, the crowd mocks and insults, spitting on him, shaking their fists, and insulting him during his agony. Each sound, each movement, each drop of blood presses down like a weight too heavy for any human to bear. Yet through the blur of agony, his eyes found Mary, his mother, standing beneath the cross. His face is etched with grief, helplessness, and fear, knowing there's nothing she can do to stop this horror. With a voice strained but tender, in John 19, Jesus calls out, "Woman, behold your son." Then turning to John, he says, "Behold your mother." In John 19, verses 26 and 27. Jesus turns to John and says, "Behold your mother," entrusting her care to him. He places the responsibility of her protection, her safety, and her well-being into John's hands. Even in this ultimate moment of suffering and agony, he acts. He doesn't stop at words of sentiment. He ensures that she is cared for, that her needs are met and seen. True honor, Jesus tells us, is not just spoken. It is enacted. It is costly, often convenient, and often undeserved. But it is love that bears weight, even when the world mocks, even when it hurts you, even when every instinct is to recoil or lash out. It is a living, breathing honor that chooses action over self-preservation, mercy over retaliation, and care over convenience. We fail when we demand honor from others while withholding it ourselves. How often do we justify our harsh words, impatience, or our cold silence, thinking they're old enough to know better, or I'm just being honest? We convince ourselves that these moments are small, inconsequential, even deserved. We shrug them off, dismiss small betrayals of respect as harmless or normal. But pause and be honest with yourself. Even small actions leave impressions. Every glance of irritation, every sigh of aspiration, every defensive cutting remark quietly writes a lesson in their hearts. They notice when patience is measured only by convenience, when love feels conditional, and when mercy is selective. And though we tell ourselves, they'll grow out of it, the truth is, these moments accumulate like hidden roots beneath the floorboards. Silent, unseen, but shaping the structure of their perception, their understanding of relationships, and their own moral compass. In these moments, we are teachers, whether we intend to be or not. Every word, every tone, every hesitation or sharpness communicates this is what respect looks like, this is what an honor costs, and this is who is worthy of it. When we fail to model honor, we don't just break rules, we leave a map for the next generation on how to respond to life, conflict, and family by our actions and our words. And if we're not careful, it becomes a map littered with bitterness, entitlement, and misunderstanding, echoing long after that moment has passed. Think about Joseph again in Genesis. Betrayed, abandoned, sold into slavery. Yet when the moment came, he honored his father's wishes fully, carrying Jacob's body to Canaan, showing respect even where it was costly and inconvenient. Or Eli's sons, I mentioned in 1 Samuel, Hophni and Phinehas, who mocked their father and abused the priesthood. Unchecked dishonor led to destruction. Honor left unmodeled or ignored either built a legacy or erodes one. Now, the gospel invites us into the transformation solution. Christ stepped into the chaos of our rebellion and bore the shame that we deserved. He didn't react with retaliation, bitterness, or abandonment. Instead, he honored even when dishonor was heaped upon him, showing us the path forward. And he calls us to do the same. He calls us to do the same. We will not be perfect. We will fall short. But we get up intentionally, daily, and we choose mercy, restraint, and responsibility. So I want you to imagine that you're standing at the foot of the cross. The sky is dark. The world is ragged. And you can just feel it. You can hear the hammers just strike. And with every strike, there's a cry. With every cry is the weight of every sin and insult crushing against him. And yet, he still turns to care for his mother. Ask yourself, am I modeling honor or dishonoring that sacrifice? Every glance, every word, every dramatic pause, every sigh often mirrors whether you care or contrasts it. When anger rises or patience thins, pause and ask yourself, how would Jesus honor, even in pain? Let that guide your next words and reactions, choosing restraint, choosing care, and choosing reconciliation. If your past behavior has sown dishonor, which at some point it probably has, like everyone. Take concrete steps to repair it. Confess it, apologize for it, repent of it, act with respect, and demonstrate mercy going forward. Anchor yourself in the cross, remembering that the same presence that bore dishonor for you can empower you to break the cycles of disrespect. Don't dishonor His sacrifice by repeating the mistakes of the past. Let it shape a legacy of honor that carries life and grace to your family. Now, I would like you to do something. I would like you to look at your hands. I really want you to look at your hands, please. These hands that you're looking at, they have worked. They have built. They have prayed. They have been disciplined. They have held trembling children and wiped tears and carried burdens that no one else could see. And yet, how many times have they been met with rejection, sharp words, cold indifference, or ungratefulness? Can you remember it? That weight, the years of dishonor, the apathy, the silent resentments, the missed opportunities to love rightly, pressing down like a hammer, like chains wrapped around your wrist. Now picture Jesus. His hands, His wrists pierced by nails, stretched wide on the cross. Crimson blood just flowing, soaking into the rough wood. Every heartbeat is a thunderclap of agony. Each breath jagged and shallow. The sky darkened as the creation itself recoiled. And around Him, the crowd is mocking and insulting, and they spit and they curse, and they mock Him for every sin, every failure, every wrong you or I have ever done. And yet, even in that ultimate and unimaginable suffering, He did not withhold honor. His eyes found Mary, His mother, standing beneath the cross, and grief etched deep into her soul. He entrusted her care to John, ensuring that even as the world fell apart around Him, someone would protect, nurture, and respect her. And it comes to mind right now, who's that person for you? In that last moment, as you take your last breaths, who will be there for you? His honor was alive in action, not words alone. Despite the pain, the ridicule, and the blood. Now imagine your hands again. How often have they failed to honor like that? Too often to admit. How often have your words, your silence, and your patience, or your anger spoken louder than any lessons you tried to teach? Every glance, every sigh, every act of selfishness writes a story in the hearts of those who watch you. Do your children see patience, care, mercy, and respect? Or do they often see irritation, withdrawal, bitterness, and indifference? I want you to feel the weight, because it's there, it's happening, and let it press in, and let it awaken in you for a longing to change. Let it stir repentance in the very marrow of your bones. Every sin, every harsh word, every moment of neglect, lay it at the cross. Let Him take it. Let Him cleanse your hands. Restore your heart and guide your life. Let Him break the cycle, the patterns of dishonor, the quiet poison that spreads through generations. This is the moment, right here, right now, to hand Him every failure, to let His honor flow through your life, to choose mercy over retaliation, patience over bitterness, love over indifference. This is the choice that will ripple outward into your home, into your family, and into your legacy. If you are ready to let Christ take the weight of dishonor from your hands, to let Him restore, guide, and empower you, then stand. Stand if you're ready to honor your children and your grandchildren. Stand if you're ready to honor your parent. Well, I know, guys. Stand if you're ready to honor your children, or if you're online, your parents. Stand if you're ready to honor God in every word, every thought, and every action. I see too many butts in the pews. And now, as we stand, let's take this moment to rededicate ourselves fully to Christ, to place our hands in His bloodstained hands, to take our shortcomings and exchange it for the righteousness and the honor He gave us on the cross. Join me in prayer.